We're here. We are here at the FAFO stage. This is really bad. And if you appreciate my content, please engage with this video. I'm just going to read this to you. Multiple Texas farms shut down after almost 100% of workforce vanishes overnight. In a stunningly swift overnight change, some Texas farm operations had to shut down after losing virtually all of their workforce, an exodus triggered by the increase in immigration raids and increased enforcement. The ripple effects of these raids are the gift that keeps on giving and will be felt nationwide. Unpicked crops are now left unharvested. Livestock were left untended, and rural economies are on edge. The story isn't just a tale of woe for Texas farms, it's a warning for American agribusiness, food prices, and communities that keep food on our plates. I need you to share this with every Republican you know.
Oh no, this is so sad. There are a bunch of white Texas farmers who are losing their farms right now. Because guess what? 100% of their workforce vanished. Wow. So all those people, who got eyes called on them, they were working on the farms. So now that they're gone, they cannot sustain the farms. You know what's crazy about this video? Because I talked about this like 2 months ago when Trump brought over all these South Afrikaners, farm people, where we find out that they were not really even farmers. And I was talking about this and found out that a few of our dear white farmers here had started losing their farms because of promises that were made to them and was not kept by this administration. So now it's trickling down to some other farmers because now their workforce, they're gone. And I was seeing somewhere where somebody came over, and it was a Caucasian man. He came over from Twitter, and he was like, y'all, a lot of these farmers, white farmers, they thought that black people were going to come and work for their farms. There's a lot going on in this country right now. Us heading into possibly World War II. But this is a conversation just to kind of talk about right now. That people are kind of seeing what's the word? I can't even find the word, but the decisions that they made, they are coming back to hunt them. Let's just say that. So sorry to hear this, but yeah. So I do hope that some of these Native Americans that did lose their lands, that they do get back some of these farms that are being lost.
Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. As you know, I'm your host and presenter Eugene Stories. Well, I'm hoping that you're doing fine from wherever you're watching us. Now, you just know that recently Texas white farmers are now furious that they woke up one day in the morning just recently to find out that workers are not showing up. But why are the workers not showing up? The workers are not showing up because they realize that there are ice raids that are going on, and soon or later they'll be found out, and they left. But we ask ourselves this question. Let's look at Texas white farmers who they voted for. These people voted for Mr. Donald Trump, and they understand the repercussions that this is having towards immigrants, more so-called undocumented immigrants. And so they're out there so furious, trying to ask people to work on their farms. Even before that, we saw some of them trying to ask black people to now work on their farms because they know, one, black people cannot be deported. Two, at the back of their minds, they still think that this is those slavery times, why you will let black people just work for you for a lower wage. I mean, working is not a problem, but at what wage are you guys offering them? So this has a tremendous effect because this is so diabolic, because the same people that are now complaining and furious out there are the same people that endorsed Mr. Donald Trump. And these are what they best, because this is what they voted for. And as everyone says, you sleep in the bed that you're the ones who made. So this is a perfect example of something that you did thinking that will hurt black people, backfiring on your face, and now it's happening to you. Hey, I want us to watch this video. I don't want to say much. If you're watching us for the first time, kindly consider subscribing to the channel, join our membership, and really get to what we can offer you, because we need to have these discussions. We need to explore, we need to talk about these things, because I find it really, really important. So without much further ado, let's get into it. I'll be back.
Hospitals, they sell their harvest, all sorts of vegetables, to businesses within the state of Texas. This is where you can go into your local grocery store, and now you're going to see hardly any vegetables or fruit, depending on what they're growing, or a shortage of meat. This is what's going to happen. Now, all of the other industries that support farming, you've got local pesticide, herbicide, fertilizer suppliers that are just, their sales are going to plummet. These farmers aren't going to be purchasing that. You've got H-2A workers who are now gone, migrant workers who are now gone. They were paying taxes. Even if they didn't have social security numbers, they were given tax numbers, tax ID numbers. So now you got millions of dollars just poof, gone overnight from these Texas communities. You've got trucking companies that are hired to haul the produce from the farms to the packaging plants. You've got packaging plants who wash the vegetables, grade the vegetables, pack the vegetables, whose sales are going to plummet. Now you're going to have other industries who don't employ either migrant workers or H-2A workers who are going to have layoffs. This is all under Republican leadership, not just from the White House, but from the Republicans that were elected in the state of Texas. And if you think this is going to stop at Texas, you've got another thing coming. And you want to know which farms are going to be impacted further down the road? They're going to be safe for now. There's a small percentage of farmers who are actually Democrats. And they understand how important it is to protect their employees, take care of their employees. Those employees who feel safe will keep showing up for work because they know the owners have their backs, which says something about these other farms where the employees are like, I'm too scared to show up. Let me add this final thing. This is going to impact farmers. They're at risk of going out of business. Who's going to jump in? The federal government, to compensate them with our tax dollars. So now our tax dollars is going to be used to cover the bullshit leadership of this administration on top of the overwhelming increasing tax dollars being used by this administration to scare, to deport, to imprison people with brown skin. Like, our tax dollars are not helping everyday Americans at all. And this is just the beginning under Republican leadership. Share this video.
You want to get rid of illegal immigrants, quit eating. And that's for everybody. That's, nationwide. If you want to get rid of them, quit eating. That'll solve the problem.
But when only 5 pickers showed up this morning to harvest his sweet potatoes, farmer Keith Smith saw possible ruin, the loss of his $500,000 crop.
They're running scared because of this new law.
And you're in trouble.
I'm in trouble, bad trouble.
Smith's 200 acres need 20 pickers, mostly Mexican nationals.
There is not enough documented people here to supply that workforce.
Most of your workers are here illegally.
But sure, if they got documentation, they got a better job working for me.
Fernando Aldeman, a Mexican national, has worked Smith's farm since 1992.
Everybody's just scared.
Yeah.
Now, are you here legally? No.
No.
So, are you scared?
Yeah, I'm scared. I'm scared,
Smith's pickers make about $100 a day. He supports immigration laws, just not this one that threatens his third-generation family.
So I just saw this video of this white man who's not MAGA, by the way, or at least he says he's not, but because he damn sure selling the look. But he says he has a fake account over on Twitter, and he joined this group of white farmers, and he's pretending to be MAGA just to see what they're talking about. So apparently they had this group chat or group call where the white MAGA farmers were upset and saying the only reason why they voted for shitty britches was because they thought the blacks didn't have jobs and the blacks would come back and work their fields. They thought they were going to get slavery back by voting for shitty britches. But they have been saying loud and proud with their chest that immigrants were taking their jobs. Yet, there are a couple of farms here in Texas that overnight lost 100% of their workforce. But immigrants was taking their jobs, right? Racism is expensive, huh?
All right, MAGA, get out there. Where are you at? You got your jobs back. You got your jobs that were taken from you. Get out there. Get out there and start working. Get to work. America first. Get out there. 100% haven't shown up to work due to immigration raids. Texas farmer says. America's migrant workers are terrified to work, but unable to stay home. So get out there, MAGA. You got these jobs back. You took them back. You voted. You got your guy in there to get rid of all of those migrant workers. So get out there. Get out there and start working. But for real, I want to shout out to the undocumented migrant workers as they were deemed essential in 2020. They stepped up when this nation needed them most. They have my utmost respect. They should see a pathway to citizenship. Period. Period. They were deemed essential workers, risking their lives in one of the most hazardous jobs in the entire U.S. labor market. They have my full respect. Thank you for your service and your contribution to this country.
It's Joe from Georgia. So this is news out of Texas. But folks, these are alarm bells ringing for the entire United States. And our government is not listening. Overnight, multiple farms in the state of Texas completely shut down. And the reason for this shutdown was because they have lost almost 100% of their workforce. Now, we know this is the result of the immigration raids and stricter enforcement, but the ripple effect is going to be felt all the way across this country. Now, you've got crops that are rotting in the fields. You have livestock that is not being attended to at all. And that takes a lot of personnel. And we're talking, so now we're getting every area of food to include meat. And the communities that surround these farms, those businesses and those people who depend on the income from these farms, it's creating disasters for small communities in Texas. Now, this is not stopping at Texas farms. This is going to end up all the way across America, especially in the breadbasket, the middle of the nation, because they have tons of immigrant help. But folks, the alarm bells are ringing. Your food on your plate is being affected. So you got to think about it. It won't be soon until either prices go ridiculously high or you just won't have any food to buy.
Well, thanks to the big orange gremlin looking motherfucker, multiple farms in Texas just shut down overnight. Why? Because ICE raids made nearly 100% of the workforce completely vanish. People ran, got detained, or flat out got scared to death and never came back. Dairy farms are in panic mode right now. Cows got to be milked every 8 hours. And guess what? Nobody's showing up to milk these fuckers, folks. This isn't some Texas problem either. This is happening across the entire nation. ICE isn't just out here enforcing some bullshit laws. They are actively crippling our food systems with fear and chaos. You want to talk about consequences? This ain't just about politics anymore, y'all. It's about what's on your table, what's in your fridge, or what's about to be missing from your fucking store. These Nimrods aren't saving America. They're starving it.
This is breaking news. Texas farmers are sounding the alarm on this tariff war. And in more breaking news, nobody cares. Yeah, I don't know if it's just me or maybe it's some of you too, but as far as farmers sounding the alarm, I don't care. I have to admit, I don't care at all, because the last time Donald Trump was president, 100,000 farmers across the country lost their farms. Yeah. So overwhelmingly, farmers voted for this man again, knowing full well of his history the last time he was president. So from me to you, farmers, I don't care. I don't care how bad things get for you. I don't care if you lose your farm. I don't care if I don't care. At least I don't care to hear about it. I really don't. Because this is exactly what you voted for. And you're going to get what you voted for. You're going to get 4 more years of Donald Trump not giving a damn about farmers whatsoever. So, enjoy.
Hello, Americans who like to eat. I'm Linda, and I want to talk about empty grocery shelves. They are coming, and sooner than we think. There's a 3,000 per day immigrant detention quota. 40% of farm workers in the United States are undocumented. You do the math. Farms are an excellent place to find undocumented immigrants to detain and deport, depleting the workforce. And now, those who haven't been rounded up are afraid to show up. Let's look at just one state, Texas. According to farmers, this issue has been affecting their farms for a couple of weeks, but overnight, it bottomed out. On several Texas farms, nearly 100% of farm workers aren't showing up. So what does that mean for you? Remember Trump's comment about having 2 dolls instead of 30? Cows are milked 3 times a day. No workers, no milk, and some very unhappy cows. What if your grocery store, instead of getting 30 gallons of milk, gets 2? 28 families will not be able to buy milk. Now extrapolate that among produce. Produce that instead of being harvested is rotting on the vine. Texas is one of the top 10 producers of 40 major commodities. It is the 4th largest agriculture producer in the nation and 2nd in animal products. And it's not just cows not being milked and produce rotting on the vine. 1 in 7 Texans works in an agriculture-related job. If farms stop working, those jobs are affected. Workers not earning money aren't paying taxes. And yes, undocumented workers pay taxes. Without money coming in, they will cut back on things like restaurants and small businesses, movie theaters, wherever they spend their discretionary income. Last week, Trump ordered a halt to immigration enforcement at farms. But it may already be too late to solve the current problem. The lack of workers now mean farms won't hit full production this year. And if they lose planting now, there is nothing to harvest later. Yet despite Trump's assurances, a few days after his statement, the administration resumed the raids. Vance says the administration plans to continue clearing the country of undocumented immigrants. Quote, "We're enforcing everywhere. In other words, you ought to voluntarily go back and come through the proper channels," unquote. That can literally take years. And frankly, it doesn't protect you from being deported. In the meantime, the question remains, how long are you willing to go without food? Bye, Americans. Have a nice day.
Texas is continuing the F around and find out stage. Guess what just hit 0 before Donald Trump's approval rating? Right there. Farm labor attendance, Zero. Entire fields, whole crews are ghosting fields, leaving fruits and vegetables to rot because the Donald Trump administration is too busy playing cat and mouse with people who just want to feed America. To the MAGA people who are saying that immigrants are taking your job, this right here is your opportunity. Pick yourselves up by the bootstraps, get those buckets, and pick those strawberries. No more hiding behind those welfare checks that are padded behind blue state dollars. You wanted the raids, you got them. Now get in those fields and pick those fruits and vegetables before you watch the produce aisle turn to a luxury boutique section. Chop chop, MAGA. And that's it.
So there's reports coming out right now about farms in Texas losing nearly 100% of their staff due to immigrant workers not turning up because of fear of the ICE raids. So let's talk about that. Texas farms generate around $32 billion a year in revenue for the state, huge, valuable, and there's around 100,000 and there's hundreds of thousands of farm workers in Texas. And around 20-30% of those are foreign born, and around 17% of those are undocumented. So there's a lot of immigrants and a substantial number of undocumented immigrants. Now, the ICE raids have caused people to stay at home because of the fear that they're going to get deported. This means that farms are losing their staff. Some dairies have lost half their workers overnight. That's halts milk operations and also means the herd isn't being tended to. But it's not 100% of staff because less than 30% are immigrants in the first place. So we need to clarify 2 points. First of all, it is an issue because farms require a lot of manual labour. And even if you're losing 10% of the staff, that's going to be a bigger impact, but it's not 100%. Now, the reason it's a problem right now is this harvest is going on right now. So it's the winter wheat harvest, so it's plants that winter, gets harvested now, and around 50% of wheat would be harvested right now. And it's a critical phase. That's not going to happen if the staff aren't there. You then got a lot of fruit being harvested right now: cantaloupes, watermelons, peaches, plums, blackberries. They're all being harvested right now in either central or northern Texas. And these delays could either cause a loss of the crop or a reduced quality and therefore reduced revenue for the farmers. So it's actually quite a big issue. There's also secondary effects. Hay and silage is having troubles being harvested. That means there's going to be a long tail impact because the lack of hay now is going to impact the feed supplies later on. You've also got problems with logistics, so haulage, delivery, and then food processing plants. Think about abattoirs, etc. If the immigrant workers don't turn up for that either, you're not going to be able to get the food processed even once it is going from the farm to the factory. So this is quite a big issue. Not 100% of staff, but it is a significant percentage of staff, which is going to impact food supplies.
Should we dress up as ICE agents and help escort people, immigrants that are at their court hearings or court proceedings and escort them home? I mean, it's easy to do. Who even knows if any of these ICE agents are even real ICE agents? We don't know. They don't show you their face. They don't show you anything. They don't show you any badge. They don't show you any ID. They don't have warrants from a judge. I mean, how hard would it be to impersonate an ICE agent? And who knows if these people that are snatching up people that are undocumented or even citizens, whether they're even truly ICE. You do not know that. But we could go and order the same clothes, order the same things, which maybe that's all what they've done. They're in unmarked cars. You don't even know they're an official car. You don't know any of these people are even legitimate. They may just be Proud Boys. They may just be a vigilante group. You don't know. But guess what? We could do the same thing, and you could escort people, give them a ride home, take them home, get them home safely, and you can make sure this is something that we could do to help people so that they are able to follow the law under the Constitution as they're doing, and Donald Trump and his team clearly are not. What do you think? Love to hear from my Democrats, my MAGAs, my crazies, my cuckoos, my burned light bulbs. Am I cray-cray, or what do you think? I don't know. I've seen this idea batted around, and I think it's something we could think about. Let me know what you think.
Down on illegal immigration is starting to affect the Texas agriculture industry. Some farmers say their workers are too scared to show up for work. Fox 4's Casey Stegall spoke with the Texas Agriculture Commissioner about the recent immigration raids. Casey.
Hey, Steve, good to see you. The state Republican agriculture commissioner tells me that the stepped up immigration enforcement is taking a toll on the industry, not just here in Texas, but beyond, while federal immigration authorities say they're only doing their jobs. Just 40 miles or so south of the Dallas hustle and bustle,
row crops, hay production,
sits Lee Calvert's 2,000-acre Ellis County family farm.
My father helps me. Obviously, my little sister helps. My wife, huge help. I've got 3 sons, and they're coming along and doing what they can.
Calvert knows he's lucky not having to rely on farmhands to check the chores off, because those who do say absenteeism among hired migrant help has disrupted their entire operations.
They hear that ICE is coming, or they see somebody from INS roll up. Well, they just don't show up. They're scared to come to work.
Texas Agriculture Commissioner Sid Miller tells Fox 4 dairy farmers have been hit the hardest.
But on a dairy, those cows, they never stay milked. You milk them 3 times in a 24-hour period. So if the crew doesn't show up, these dairymen go into panic mode.
Are you a U.S. citizen? We have documents to be here.
Recent video posted to immigration rights groups' social media channels shows federal agents conducting raids on California farms. President Trump in the last week briefly paused this type of enforcement within a handful of economic sectors which rely heavily on migrant labor, like agriculture. Then it was back to business.
We're enforcing everywhere. In other words, the president has said if you are an illegal immigrant into this country, you ought to voluntarily go back and come through the proper channels.
Folks like Lee Calvert agree there's no place in America for migrants with violent criminal backgrounds, but wishes there was more gray area.
And I think there needs to be a distinction made in a pathway for the people that do want to come here, obey our laws, integrate into our societies, work in our factories, fields, wherever.
So the U.S. Department of Agriculture estimates that more than 40% of the nation's farm workers are undocumented.
Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Well, I'm hoping that you are doing great from wherever you're watching us from. I'm your host again and presenter, Unintended Stories. Now let's get into it. Let's have a discussion about this. Now, the support of Donald Trump among white farmers can be traced to a mixed cultural, racial, and economic anxieties. Many of these farmers, facing shrinking profit margins and rural decline, were drawn to Trump's populist message. He promised to bring back American jobs, reduce regulation, and stand up to elites and foreigners alike. His tough stance on immigration appealed to cultural fears about changing demographics, even though those immigrants were the backbone of local economies. Right. In voting for Trump, many farmers prioritize identity politics and nationalism over economic practicality, failing to see how his policies would hurt their own industries. These people voted for cultural reasons. These people voted for political reasons, but they didn't vote for economic reasons. Because even if you fear what is called, group marginalization or racial marginalization, because you feel that if other groups come into this place, they'll take over you. But you didn't look at this aspect. Remember, majority of things that we see great today are not being done by, especially in industries, they're not being done by Americans themselves. At least we know there are Americans that does this, but especially low wages work. These are things that are done by immigrants because they're the ones who can accept these jobs. Americans themselves, it is not easy for them to accept these jobs. So that being said, it means that the immigrants are the ones who are working in these places. Well, they went ahead and voted against these immigrants. What did it mean? It meant that they are gonna be losing the people who work on their farm. And as time goes, I think it gets even worse because one day they wake up in the morning, they're not finding anybody, 100%. And I think these people had their own committee or at their own meeting, and they say that since you guys voted against us, F you, we gotta go. And I think that's what they did. That's what they really found important, and they decided to do that. So Trump's immigration policies, particularly his aggressive deployment of immigration and customs enforcement, that's the ICE, created an environment of fear and instability for undocumented workers. Sweeping raids in rural and urban areas led to mass detentions and deportations, removing standards of experienced farm laborers from the workforce. These sent shockwaves through the agricultural centers. Crops were left to rot in the fields, livestock went unmanaged, supply chains were disrupted, farmers found themselves with land and product but no workers to sustain production. Also, this was predictable outcome of the very policies they cheered on. Now, this crisis exposes a deeper issue. And what does this crisis expose? The inability or refusal of many Americans to separate political ideology from economic necessity. While many white farmers may have personally liked or relied on their undocumented workers, they still voted for a candidate whose policies will harm those workers and, by extension, their own livelihoods. This is a form of cognitive dissonance, driven by racial resentment, political tribalism, and media propaganda. Rather than seeing immigrants as vital members of the community, many voters bought into the narratives that they were criminals, invaders, or threats to American culture, despite years of working side by side with them. Also, it is also important to recognize the role of media and misinformation in shaping these views. And I want us to talk about it. First, right-wing news outlets and talk radio shows constantly portray immigrants as danger to society, rarely showing the full picture of how deeply integrated they are into American economy. This fear-driven message helped create a political base that votes emotionally rather than rationally. Many white rural farmers voters were conditioned to believe that immigration control would protect their way of life, not realizing that it will actually destabilize the labor systems they depend on. Their anger today is the result of years of being misled and manipulated. Furthermore, the voting behavior of these farmers highlights a failure of political education. For decades, America has lacked widespread civic and economic literacy. People voted based on slogans, personalities, and cultural identity rather than policies and their real-world impact. Few voters took the time to analyze what mass deportations would mean for agriculture, construction, or what mass deportations will mean for agriculture, construction, and service, or the service industry. Politicians like Trump exploited this gap, offering emotional, satisfying, but practically devastating policies. Now, as the economic consequences unfold, many voters are experiencing buyer's remorse, but the damage has already been done. And guess who's benefiting from all this? You know very well. TRUMP. Now read it without crying. Let's continue. There's also a moral dimension to this crisis. Many farmers knew their workers were undocumented, yet looked the other way for years, benefiting from their labor without providing legal protections or advocacy. When ICE came knocking, few stood up for the people who built their farms. The moral silence reflects a larger American hypocrisy. We welcome immigrant labor when it's convenient, but criminalize it when it becomes politically useful. Farmers are now paying the price for decades of exploiting workers without fighting for comprehensive immigration reform that could have protected both laborers and producers. Now that the impact of these immigration policies is being felt by them firsthand, some white farmers are calling for reforms, but they face a dilemma: how to fix system they helped break, having supported the very leadership that created the crisis. The appeals for more flexible or humane immigration policies ring hollow to many. Moreover, the broader political base that fueled Trump's rise is unlikely to be backpedaled, as it remains deeply entrenched in anti-immigrant ideology. This leaves farmers stuck, desperate for labor but trapped by political consequences of their own choices. I would like to end by saying that the plight of white Texas farmers amid ICE raids is a sobering lesson in how political delusions have real-world consequences. And this is a case study for voting against self-interest, driven by cultural resentment and misinformation. The current struggles are not random, they are natural outcome of policies they endorsed, policies rooted in fear rather than fact. As America continues to grapple with demographic and economic future, these moments should serve as a wake-up call. No community is immune from the consequences of injustice, and ignoring reality for the sake of political loyalty can be devastating in the end. Really, I want to know what you think about all this, because all we are seeing a number of people are regretting from the decisions that they made, the decisions that were not right, but at the end of the day, they went ahead and made them because they acted and reacted emotionally. So tell me, let's engage, let's have a talk about this. Again, I'll remind you, if you're watching us for the first time, I'll most definitely ask you to subscribe to the channel, join our membership, and really get to what we can offer you. But until then, I'm hoping to see you in my next video. Peace, love, and harmony. Salute.